Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education, February 28th, 2019. We just met in executive session, and we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Sarah Jackie, can we call the roll? Mrs. Bauer? Here. Mrs. Boroff? Here. Mrs. Brody? Here. Dr. Clancy? Here. Mrs. Soriani? Here. Mrs. Williams? Here. Mrs. Winkler? Here. Mr. Murray? Here. Dr. Kulikowski? Here. Quorum is present. Thank you, Ms. Saradaki. In executive session, we discussed personnel matters, a HIB report, suspension report, legal status report, and negotiation update. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies in which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of this act, the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Board of Education offices located at Cedar Street and Evergreen Avenue, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Such notice was also provided in written notice form, forwarded to the Times, Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, and in the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings as adopted March 29th, 2018. We do have an addition to the agenda since last week. 18 BUS, UC, ESC, non-public school, additional funding security aid agreement. At this time, we go to the committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? Mrs. Bauer?
I would like to give an update on negotiations.
Go right ahead.
So in May 2018, representatives from the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education and the Scotch Plains Fanwood Education Association shared proposals for contract negotiations, and we've been negotiating in good faith since that time. Although the previous contract expired on June 30th, 2018, all of the terms and conditions of the previous agreement are continuing in effect. The board recognizes the concerns of its employees and seeks to address their concerns by reaching a mutually beneficial agreement. At the same time, the board is aware of the economic impact that the budget has on taxpayers of Scotch Plains and of Fanwood. We have a dual responsibility, both to our employees, whom we very deeply value, and our residents who support the schools. In December, after 9 meetings with the association's representatives, both parties to this process jointly agreed that they were at impasse. The declaration of impasse means that the parties are requesting the PERC appoint a mediator who is a neutral party to work with us to find common ground, and we'll be meeting with the mediator on March 20th. In the interim, the board was asked to research information, some additional new information about health care and benefits, and we have that information, and we're scheduled to meet with the SPFEA next week. Our board values its teachers. We're committed to ensuring that the negotiated settlement is one we can sustain over time. The board's objectives are to contain health benefit costs in a manner that provides savings to both the employees as well as the board. This will help us to provide a salary increase that is fiscally responsible. We're optimistic that with the mediator's assistance, we will reach an agreement, and we are working hard to ensure that this happens as soon as possible. So that's the update from the committee.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. Any questions or discussion? Any other reports? Okay, seeing no other reports, we'll go to the open public meeting. In accordance with Policy 9322-R, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments, maximum 2 minutes per speaker, and this will be the first of 3 opportunities for public comment. Speakers addressing the board priority items, letters to the board, and the superintendent's report, including instructional update, will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. Please come to the podium, state your name and the town in which you reside.
I apologize, I'm going to look down because I took notes so that I don't ramble. My name's Rachel Richer, I'm from Fanwood. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here tonight in support of the Scotch Plains Fanwood teachers. I have 2 children that attend School 1. Ryder is in 4th grade and Harper is in 2nd grade. My children love going to school. I want to thank the Board of Education for providing the resources and the programming that have given Ryder and Harper an opportunity to not only meet their educational expectations, but to exceed them. With that said, I'd like to speak about the educators, who are the individuals that are using these programs in their classrooms and have nurtured, supported, and encouraged my children every day. I want to tell you about Jacqueline Duffy. Jacqueline Duffy is Harper's 2nd grade teacher. She came to her performance on a Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock simply because my daughter invited her. She came on her own time to watch a 2-hour production, of which my daughter had a very minimal role. Because she wanted Harper to know that she is special and that she is loved. Meredith Sackheim, who had both of my children in 1st grade, came after school to watch Ryder during one of his soccer practices because Ryder wrote so often about playing during his writer's workshop that she wanted to witness and personally experience my son's passion for his sport. My dear friend Kim Semnecki, who is an amazing kindergarten teacher, who during her well-deserved summer vacation takes the time out each and every day at Highland Swim Club to say hello to students, both present and former, as well as their parents. She stops what she is doing, gets on their level, hugs them, and chats for a few minutes about their summer vacations. Her dedication and love for her students and her job are so evident in the smile on her face.
Excuse me, Ms. Richer.
Yes.
That's your time. If I can, Ms. Richer, if you have a written statement, perhaps we could submit it to the board secretary.
Absolutely. I just want to thank you, and I just want to say one more thing, that we owe them everything, and as a taxpayer and a community member, we owe them what they have given our children, and they do it without compensation. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for your statements. Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the board at this time? There will be other opportunities. Okay, thank you. Seeing no one, we'll move on to the instructional update.
Yes, tonight we have Mrs. Saradaki and Mrs. Rabimbis, who are going to update us on our proposed school budget, and they'll be dealing with the special education portion of it, and Mrs. Saradaki and Dr. Mast will be speaking to our budget relative to enrollment, curriculum, and facilities improvements planned for next year. So with that, we'll have to shift, yes.
2019-20 tentative budget, and I want everybody to understand this is tentative.
Microphone?
This is tentative. There are several numbers we don't have at this point, one being our state aid, another being the amount that the state aid requires us to budget for our semi-revenue. State facilities tuition is another number that they drop into our budget program, and I think that's it. And they don't let us know these numbers until after, it'll be March 7th or after, because the budget address is on March 5th at this point. Currently, our student enrollment in our elementary schools is up by 74 students over a 5-year period, but it's actually up by almost 60 just from last year. Middle school, we have a decrease in enrollment over the 6-year period as well as from last year. You'll see it's the negative 17 you see there is from last year. The negative 53 is over the 6-year period. And the high school has an increase of 33 students over the past 6 years, 18 alone in the past year. Throughout the district, you'll see that there is a net increase of 34 students. This takes into account our out-of-district students also. The previous numbers did not. So relatively flat enrollment for several years now, which is a good thing. Some districts are facing rapidly declining enrollment, others have rapidly increasing, which makes it very hard to keep taxes and state aid and everything adequate to support the needs of the district. And here you'll see how the income is derived from the district. 94.7%, and it's usually around 95%, is from the local tax levy. And then state aid is 3.7%, and then there are other smaller sources, such fund balance is $1 million that we carried over from the last year to credit toward the budget. And other local sources are things like interest income, facility rental, things like that. We're anticipating increasing by 2% over the 2018-19 tax levy, which is the maximum the state allows us to increase. And then they also allow for an adjustment in healthcare costs, which is $387,662. State and federal income, we're expecting to be flat. We do know that they will be taking away from the districts that are overfunded, but they have not committed at all into giving money to the districts that are underfunded. The number you see there for federal Medicaid is the number that the state provides to us, and they haven't provided that yet. So that's the only difference in those two columns. If you see our history of state aid, at one point we were receiving $4.5 million. This past year, we received $3.5 million, which seems like it's only $1 million short of what we used to receive. But if you look at the right-hand column, the CPI column shows you percentages, and those are numbers that the state has told our transportation companies and other people that they can inflate our costs by every year. But if they were to increase our state aid from what we received in 2009, 2010, by those same numbers, we'd be entitled to over $5 million in state aid. We're receiving $3.5. Our operating revenue is derived from the local tax levy, other local sources, which we don't anticipate much of a change in, and state aid. We also have repayment of debt, which decreases every year at the current time because we don't have a bond issue, so the taxpayers get some relief in the amount of about $60,000 as far as taxes. The proposed operating budget is made up of several categories. You'll see salaries, benefits, out-of-district tuition, facility maintenance, transportation, capital expenditures, and other expenses. The total is approximately $97 million. And here you'll see the breakdown. The salaries and benefits total at this point about 78%. That percentage has been slightly increasing every year. The other items are relatively stable. Out-of-district tuition, 9%, facility maintenance, 3%, transportation, 3%. Other expenses, 6%. That other expense number covers this whole list of items. It's all classroom and office supplies, computer software for classrooms and offices, textbooks, media center books and supplies, classroom and office furniture, technology purchases outside of our lease purchase, all extracurricular activities, testing materials, nurse supplies, purchases for district security, teacher workshops and training, legal, audit, and other professional services that we're required to have, postage, copy machines and paper, telephone costs and internet access, purchase services such as occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech, ABA therapy, general insurance. There are other costs in those categories also, but they're not listed. Proposed staffing changes for 2019-20 for existing programs. It looks like we may need 2 additional elementary teachers, possibly going into the 5th grade, but there's some more evaluation that needs to be done before we determine for sure. An additional .3 basic skills teacher, a .4 speech teacher, special education teachers of 1.5, and student aides, 3 student aides. The student aides, we seem to be increasing by about 3 a year, so we don't know where they're going to be needed, but that seems to be our history, so. Curriculum initiatives for 2019-20. We have elementary arts cyclical review, elementary language arts and mathematics pacing guides, reading recovery, basic skills program evaluation, social studies K-12 articulation review, middle school STAR unit development, and world language unit revisions. Also, we're going to be replacing some textbooks, elementary language arts adoption, Algebra 2 online edition, and Geography Alive for grade 6. We'll offer a great deal of teacher professional development, much of it in the area of STEAM and arts integration, development and classroom coaching, continued support of Flex PD, teacher coaching and teacher leadership programs, continue to focus on implementing the next generation science standards, advanced placement teacher institutes, review and revise Quest units of study, creative curriculum and teaching strategies gold, and strategies for teaching in a block. Our special education members, you might not be able to see them real well, but for 2018-19, we have 692 special education students. That's opposed to, in 2017-18, 635. Out of district, we have 96 as of October 15th, whereas in 2017-18, we had 98. So we're actually retaining more students in district at that point. And the total of in-district and out-of-district is 788 versus 733 in 17-18. Out of our out-of-district special education placements, we have 16 in shared time, meaning they spend half the day with us and half the day most often at Union County VOTEC. We have 29 in public placements, 50 in private placements, and 1 in a regular day school. the percentage of special ed students in the total population is almost 14%. And here you'll see where the placements take place. You'll see the vast majority of our special education students remain in district, 87.8%. Here you'll see our tuition dollars, and you'll see that it's anticipated from 2015-16 to next year, the increase in net tuition dollars after the use of IDEA funds is almost $2 million in 5 years. And that's not a significant change in the number of students. It's strictly tuition dollars. Our transportation will be increasing 2.3% from last year to this year. That is primarily special education. That is all through the Ed Commission and the special ed contractors that we hire. Our self-contained classes are handling more students. I don't have numbers on those, though, but there is an increase of the students in district, and that has, the cost, we're actually anticipating decreasing a little bit next year, but the overall cost has increased in the past 5 years by almost $200,000. And our additional support for special education programs. This includes the resource room and also includes push-in services to the classroom. It includes the occupational, physical therapies and speech, ABA therapy and effective school solutions, which is in the high school. It includes one-to-one aides, child study teams, and the extended school year program. Those costs are anticipated to increase almost 6%. Special education summary you can see here. That includes all of our special education costs, and you'll see that the cost has increased over 4 years, was anticipated to increase because the final year is a budgeted year, a total of almost 29%. Over $5 million. And here you'll see how our special education costs are spent, where 54% is additional support for students in district, primarily in district. You've got the self-contained classes, transportation, and tuition. And the capital and maintenance items budgeted are strictly the technology lease program and New Jersey State debt service assessment, which is also a number we have not received a final number from the state on. But our guess is it's going to be the $165,426. That's payment we're required to make on the bonds from the period 2000-2002, which they started assessing in 2011, I believe, and they had never told any of the districts that they were going to be charging them when they gave them grants for the fact that they had to bond and pay interest. So that's a charge from the state. And I'll be available for any questions. Yeah, we'll go back. Just close it. Turn this off. Got it. Yep. Thank you for that presentation, Mrs. Saragaki. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
have a question.
Yes.
On one page, there's, for out-of-district students in 2018, there's 81, and on the other one, it's 96. Is it a difference in timing?
Can you give us a page number? that you're referring
Page
to?
3 and page 10.
Thank you. Oh, that's my mistake. I didn't, yes. Just a mistake I made.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought it might have been like a timing
No.
difference
No.
as to when they were counted, because I know you do
No.
count at all different times of the year. Yeah, okay.
We'll correct it before we post it.
Yes, thank you for picking that up. Anyone else?
I have a couple questions.
Soriani?
First, I just want to say thank you for putting this together. It really gives us a good picture of the upcoming year, or projected upcoming year. The increase in aides every year, does that fall under, are those aides specifically denoted in individual students' IEPs, or do the aides fall in a different category?
The aides are listed in the student's IEPs.
That's what, okay.
Some are individual aides and some are group aides.
Okay, and then, thank you. And then, I don't know if you can answer this, but I know the tuition, the out-of-district tuition, just varies so much from placement to placement. Is there any talk on more of a policy level about controlling the cost or standardizing the costs among all the
If I'm not
tuition?
mistaken, there's no cap on how much they can increase,
I mean,
right?
No.
Yeah, that's great. So
do vary quite a bit.
So for the private schools, at least the ones that are approved by the state of New Jersey, there's a process for getting their costs and their tuition costs approved by the state and verified and checked every single year, but they don't have a number of the same cost restrictions that public schools have. There's been no talk that I'm aware of on the state level, and that's where it would have to come from, the state level, about limiting or controlling those costs. It's
It really
just not at
makes it
the top of
difficult
their...
to project our tuition budget. Okay,
Well, we do
thank you.
receive notices in the spring before the budget's put together, which Mrs. Rabimbus uses to put together her projections. The schools are required to submit their estimate of their costs for the following, well, actually, what their tuition rate's going to be for the following year. But that can be adjusted once their books are audited. So up to 2 years, sometimes 3 years later, we get charges for additional costs for this tuition once they've audited the books of the private school and determined that they should have charged more.
And technically, you can get money back from that, but that doesn't happen quite as often as you have to pay more, yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question and a comment. First, thank you for putting this together for us so clearly. And about the special education budget, I know we've worked very hard to create quality programming in district for our students. Is there any idea in, say, from, you may not have this, but from 10 years ago to now, I was looking through that we basically seem to be building more of our in-house programs.
We are building more of our in-house programs. So, for example, Mrs. Saradaki mentioned the self-contained program. We have 50 students currently in the district, pre-K through 12, in our self-contained program, which traditionally, let's say 10 years ago, they may have gone out of district. So when you're looking at an elementary program, we have programs at the pre-K level in the self-contained at Brunner, and then we have a K-2 class at Brunner as well. Evergreen, we have a K-2 class and a 2-4 class. School 1, we have a 3-4 class, and Coles, we have a K-2 class. So at the elementary level, we have programming on both sides of town. And then at the middle school, we also have self-contained programming in both middle schools, and they range in age depending on the school. For example, at Park, it's mostly 5th and 6th graders. At Terrell, it's mostly 7th and 8th graders at this point, just the way the cycle of the students have gone up. And at the high school, we're currently serving 13 self-contained students in our program, which is a wonderful situation because in all of these cases, the students are in their least restrictive environment in district with their peers,
Yes.
which is important for us.
Yes, I appreciate that. because it really is a win-win for everybody, and it lets us we have our own quality control. We know the kind of standards that we want for our students.
Right.
So it helps that, and they're close to home.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank everyone, the administration, the teachers, everyone, and I appreciate you putting in the slide of the history of the state aid, because I remember I was here, I know Dr. Hayes remembers very well, and some other folks here, us having to let staff go and closing lots of things, everything from middle school sports, just so many things. So I think it's really wonderful what people have managed to do with, the money that we haven't had, that we really should have had and we're getting. And plus the surprises on top. I know how shocked we were when we found out that the grants we got, we now had to pay money for, that we never were told at the time. So those unexpected things are, anyway, thank you to everyone for making it happen with the money that they gave us.
I do have one other question. Are we going to do a demographer study again? It's been a while, and I didn't know with this, you mentioned the increase in the elementary schools.
Can you, what a demographer, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Like
Somebody who comes in and estimates the population, and they use birth rates to determine what the population may be in our schools.
They'll look at things like development that's scheduled in the town. They'll look at, which, not just on a district level, but a school level, the populations of attendance zones, and they'll project usually several years into the future of where they expect your population to be.
And they've been very good.
Yeah.
No, it's been probably 5, 6 years.
It hasn't been that
No,
long.
not that long.
We did it prior to the kindergarten wing constructions, because in order to do that construction and get approval from the state, we needed a demographer study. We probably want to wait a little bit till things have firmed up as far as development goes.
That's true. That's true. Good point.
I mean, I think a year from now, you'd be prime, because by then the local towns will have a better understanding of where they're going with some of the mandates. Now it would be premature.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clancy. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Ms. Saradaki. Thank you, Dr. Mass. Thank you, Mrs. Rabimbis. Okay, moving on, superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Kulikowski. Tonight, we do not have any additional out-of-district placements. 2S, I would like the board to affirm the superintendent's decisions in the 7 HIB cases that were reported in January, on January 24th and January 31st, 2019, respectively.
Have a motion? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain from January 31st.
I was getting there. I was getting to that. I didn't catch who made the motion.
Debbie.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And we have the abstention.
Thank you. 3S, I would ask that the board approve the 2 field trips that are listed on the agenda. One is it's a wonderful opportunity. 2 of our students are going to travel to the Panasonic Corporation of North America, located in Newark, New Jersey, with their teacher, Katie Hollenbach. The student will give their oral presentation for the Panasonic Creative Design Challenge, and we are expecting that they're going to be going on March 13th, and wish them well, because this is a competition that they've been coming along with and doing quite nicely. And in addition, we have 10 Terrell Middle School students who are participating in the New Jersey History Day competition. This is a progressive competition. The first site will be March 9th at Kean University, and then depending upon how well they do, they will move on May 4th to William Patterson University, and ultimately, if they're successful there, they will move on to the University of Maryland at College Park, on June 9th through June 13th. So we wish them well, and I would appreciate if those field trips could be approved this evening.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Hayes, I'm just curious, what grade is that for those
These are
students?
Terrell Middle School students across, I believe they're in the 7th or 8th grade, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Hayes, what exactly is that? Like, what do they do?
History Day, I'm going to turn that over to Mrs. Bauer.
Plus, Nancy, I was going to have discussion, is it New Jersey History Day or National History Day?
Well, New Jersey, it's New Jersey National History Day. Maybe we could do it that way. So I happen to coordinate this for the state. And so it's a wonderful research opportunity for students, and they do research around a theme. This year it's triumph and tragedy, and they present the same ways historians do. So they can do, of course, traditional papers, but they can do performances a la Hamilton, they can do documentaries a la Ken Burns, they can do exhibits like in a museum, or they can do websites, because all the archives and all are digitizing their collection. So it's very authentic, it's very exciting, honestly. Whether they move on or not, it's always nice to move on in sports or whatever it is, but the real growth in learning, and just like teamwork in sports, the real core values happen before they even get to the competition. If you want to go and see it, you can go that day on March 9th, and you can go see all kinds of performances, documentaries, and everything. You've been, right?
Yeah, it's about time our students are participating. I know someone who's made it to Washington 3 years in a row.
Yeah, so
Their students at their school.
and they can often research. It's wonderful for student voice because they can pick their own topics. So it can be something related to their family, something they wanted to learn about. It's world history, American history. It'd
be great if we could see a few
sports,
here.
science. There's triumph and tragedy everywhere.
The Nationals in Washington are televised, so you can watch them online from when they're presenting in Maryland, the day they're doing it. I know that. I don't know about Kane or the other one.
But the theme next year is very exciting too. It's breaking barriers in history. So it'll be very appropriate.
I hope more students go next year.
How do you select the students for it? Is it,
So when the students go on March the 9th, there are panels of archivists and professors and people, usually teams of 2 or 3, and they see a series of documentaries or a series of performances, and then they try to pick the best ones.
And relative to the students who are participating, they self-select, and they're working with Ralph Giraci and some of the social
And
studies
Philip,
teachers. Philip, yes, the librarian.
Yes.
Yes.
thank you.
Yep. Right. So it is not, it is an activity that they choose to do that's over and above.
Okay, with all that discussion.
To prove it.
We had a motion.
So they could go.
Right.
And I second it.
And a second, and we had our discussion, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries.
Thank you. For us, I would like the Board of Ed to approve the updated industrial technology education proficiencies as indicated on the agenda this evening. These were approved and forwarded by the Board Curriculum Committee.
Can I have a motion? Moved. Second. And Amy, second. Thank you. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor? Roll call. Oh, excuse me, roll call, Mrs. Saradagi, I'm sorry.
Okay, who made the motion?
I did.
Everybody's looking down, I can't tell. Okay. Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Soriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And 5S, I would like the Board of Ed to approve the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School varsity letters for interscholastic extracurricular activities criteria that was reviewed by the Board Curriculum Committee and presented at our last meeting. This will keep us in line with the policy. The state asked us to extend varsity letter recognition activities to things beyond sports.
Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So that was Ms. Soriani and Mr. Evans?
Yep.
I'm just doing what the minutes said. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries.
Thank you. And lastly, I would ask that the board approve the personnel agenda as reviewed in executive session this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Saradaki, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Soriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes. Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Moving on to the next, in accordance with policy 9322-R, the meeting will be opened again for 15 minutes for public comments, maximum 2 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the business functions and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. When you come to the podium, please state your name and the town in which you reside.
Good evening. My name is Michael Abadare. I live in Scotch Plains, and I'm going to take my first minute to speak as a community member. I moved into Scotch Plains 22 years ago, and I bought a house 20 years ago, hoping that, God willing, I would share that with my wife someday, whom I had not met yet. Thankfully, that happened. And we are blessed with 4 children, 3 of whom are in Park Middle School and 1 is in Evergreen. And I'm just so thankful for all the teachers they have had all throughout their whole education, from pre-K, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, all the way to 7th grade my son is in now. And they have had fabulous teachers all throughout their whole education. And every teacher has really ministered to each kid in a way that they needed, which was fabulous. And we've met with teachers so many times just out of, goodwill. And it was a very great experience for all of our children. They have truly enjoyed school, which is obviously a huge factor in doing well, is actually liking school. And they all do, which is great. So as a community member, I've really enjoyed seeing that, and now I'm going to switch hats and I'm going to speak as a staff member. I started working in Scotch Plains, Fanwood 28 years ago, and I've been teaching ever since then in the high school, teaching chemistry, and it has been a fabulous career that I've enjoyed in this district. It was so great in the beginning that I decided to move into Scotch Plains, which was really awesome, and I'm very thankful for the support that I've received as a teacher. I've had excellent support from my supervisors, from my principal has been fabulous, Dr. Heisey, Dr. Mast, even through you. I met with Dr. Mast about 4 years ago about an innovative way I wanted to approach my teaching and kind of transform my teaching style, and she was very supportive, and it has really transformed how I teach chemistry. It's really been like a new thing for me, so I've really enjoyed that. Thankful to all our staff members. We have an amazing department, nothing against all the other departments here, but just saying the science department is just a great group of people. There's a camaraderie there, which you see in other departments as well. We get together once or twice a year as a department, just at someone's house and have a get together. It's been really awesome. So all that to say, I'm very thankful for the community. I'm very thankful for the administration, and there are over 1,000 teachers that live in Scotch Plains that not necessarily teach here, and in this room alone, there are 4 sitting here who represent those who have graduated from Scotch Plains and come back to teach in the high school right now, just in this small group, not to mention all the other ones. So it's a great town. People come back. So I just thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Seeing no one, we'll move on. Business functions, Mrs. Saradaki? Yes. I'd like to group the business agenda. 1BUS, I'd like the board to approve the superintendent's recommendations for staff training reimbursements on the report dated February 28th, 2019.
2 BOS, I'd like the board to acknowledge receipt of the disbursement listings for various bank accounts for the month of January 2019. 3 BOS, I'd like the board to acknowledge the receipt of the district's fire and security drill reports for the month of January 2019. 4 BOS, there are no related services at this time. 5 BUS was approved on February 21st. 6 BUS, I'd like the board to approve the following vendor in conjunction with the Rep Theater. Zachary Safe, he's a musician, for $610. That's paid out of the proceeds of the play. 7 BUS, I'd like the board to approve renewing our agreement with Ed Data Services for 2019-20 school year for a fee of $13,340. That's a 2% increase. 8 BUS, I'd like the board to approve the contract renewal with Effective School Solutions for professional services that are used at our high school, and the amount is $277,850, and that's for the 2019-20 school year, and that's a 2% increase also. For Eastern Datacom, for our lockdown systems, I would like the board to approve the additional cost of $28,784 for upgrade for a battery backup for the school, for 6 of the schools, and the funds will be withdrawn from 2017-18 excess extraordinary aid. 10 BUS, I'd like the board to approve the re-turfing of the current turf fields, and that's through the new Educational Services Commission of New Jersey contract, and the amount is $1,115,162, and those monies will come from capital reserve. 12, 13, and 14 BUS, all related to our audit, were approved at the February 21st meeting. 15 BUS, I'd like the board to acknowledge receipt of the board secretary report, the treasurer of school fund report, and budget adjustments for the month of January 2019. 16 BUS, I'd like the board to approve the bill list for the period January 26, 2019 through February 22nd, 2019 in the amount of $4,280,553.94. 17 BUS, I'd like the board to accept the grant award that was provided to Park Middle School in the amount of $500 for ExxonMobil Education Alliance grant, and that is to encourage studies in careers in math and science. 18 BUS is the addition, and that's for Union County Ed Services non-public additional funding security aid agreement. That's where the state gave additional funding to the non-publics. They doubled their security funding. And this is for St. Bartholomew Academy. They have to report to us what they're spending the money on, and that's related to that.
Thank you, Ms. Saradaki. Do I have a motion? So moved. Second. Thank you. Any discussion, any questions?
I just wanted to ask, the turf, how long can we expect this turf field to last?
12 to 15 years.
12 to 15 years? Thank
The
you.
current one was installed 11 years ago.
And the technology's improved.
The technology's greatly improved. I actually have samples of the turf that I could bring to the next board meeting, or if you want to stop by my office and see it. We're also planning to put the green rubberized pellets rather than black in the turf. There's a small upcharge for that, but it drops the temperature on the field between 10 and 15 degrees. So we thought that for the health of the students that play on the field, that that would be helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Clancy. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Saradaki.
Thank you.
Board policies, any policies to report? Okay, thank you.
Come up there.
You're getting there. Any new board business? Seeing none, moving on to other board business. Any requests to attend workshops? Any workshop reports? Okay. And then 2OBB Youth Art Month is March. Can someone make the motion for the resolution?
So moved.
Mrs. Winkler?
I move that the board adopt the following resolution. Whereas art education contributes powerful educational benefits to all elementary, middle, and secondary students, including the following. Art education develops students' creative problem-solving and critical thinking abilities. Art education teaches sensibility to beauty, order, and other expressive qualities. Art education gives students a deeper understanding of multicultural values and beliefs. Art education reinforces and brings to life what students learn in other subjects. And art education interrelates student learning in art production, art history, art criticism, and aesthetics. Whereas our national leaders have acknowledged the necessity of including arts experiences in all students' education, and whereas March is officially recognized as Youth Art Month, now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education does hereby endorse March 2019 as Youth Art Month.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Do we have a second? Second. Second, Deb Brody. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next we have approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Second. Okay, any discussion? I have one. For the minutes of January 3rd, page 3, on the nomination of vice president, it says Ethan Murray instead of Evan Murray. We need to get it right. January 3rd, page 3, under the nomination for vice president, it says Ethan Murray, not Evan Murray.
You got nominated. You got nominated.
So that's the only thing that
Is that because it said Evan Murray in the program at school?
At Terrell, yeah, at the Jazz Festival, yeah.
That's funny. Any other comments or discussion on the minutes? Anybody need to?
I need to abstain from January 31st.
Murray under trombone.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Anybody else? Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And we had the one abstention. Thank you. Okay. Now we have another public comment as per Regulation 93-22-R with a maximum 2 minutes per speaker. Please give your name and the town in which you reside when you approach the podium.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Michael Hergenhan. I'm a math teacher at the high school, and I live in Rahway. I come to you tonight to raise some concerns from a group that you may not have heard from in these protracted contract negotiations, the non-tenured teachers. While I cannot hope to speak for all of my fellow non-tenured, I imagine that some of them share my concerns, though I hope that they don't share my problems. As someone who's only in my 4th year of teaching in the district, I can't say that I'm suffering the same effects of the more veteran staff who have not seen an effective pay raise in nearly a decade. Sure, I'm taking home a lower net salary in each paycheck than I was in my rookie year. The percentages haven't hurt quite as bad, for now. My concerns are the more long-term impacts of having our salaries fall behind the rate of inflation. If I already cannot afford to withhold more than a few dollars from my retirement fund, how will that impact the growth of my account over the next, I hope, 20-plus years of teaching here? If we are already scraping to pay off all of our debts with a salary that doesn't match rising property taxes, how can my wife and I hope to start a family in the coming years? As someone who is so close to reaching that lofty goal of 4 years and a day, it is a difficult thought to even consider that I might be better off in another district. That starting all over again from the lowest rung of the ladder would still be a beneficial choice for my family. So what keeps me in the district? Well, the students, of course, while they can be frustrating or silly sometimes, they are mostly wonderful young people. Yet almost as much, it's my coworkers who keep me going each day. The veteran teachers who have helped lift me up and improve my own craft, the the newer teachers with whom I have bonded during our shared learning experiences, the amazing folks in our counseling office, our great building administrators. I am richer for having all of them to lean on, to learn from, and to laugh with. Which in closing brings me to my biggest questions in all of this, and those that I hope you consider most strongly. How can we expect to continue to grow a culture of strong veteran teachers if someone so close to tenure can still consider leaving? How can we expect to draw new young talent to the district and keep the great veteran talent we already have if we have been compensated below county average for the better part of a decade? I ask that you reflect on these questions as we continue to work together to give our students the rich educational experience that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else that wishes to make a comment? Seeing no one, we'll move on. Remarks for the good of the order.
I have something. As you know,
Dr.
we've
Mast.
been participating in the Opera Met HD Live, and today I received an email learning that the Fanscotian also has an online version. It's the fanscotian.com, and in it is an article from our French 3 class where they actually performed pieces of Carmen before they attended. And there are a number of pictures of students singing solos, and the rest of the class would join in. They would be the soldiers. There were different instruments that they played to represent pieces of that opera. They prepared and created those pieces for a week, and then they performed it for their peers. Unfortunately, I was not there, but a number of the high school administrators, along with some teachers, visited that class as the students performed it. And I'm certain that those students will remember that experience forever. It would be what Dr. Hayes calls a seminal moment that we all strive to achieve. So if you have a chance, go to the fanscotian.com and read the article.
Thank you, Dr. Mast. Appreciate that.
I have a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank all the teachers who are leading our activities this week for Read Across America Week. All of our elementary schools are participating, and our PALS middle school groups are heading over to Coles in School 1, and they'll be reading to our elementary school students as well. Last night, I had a great opportunity because I was at the PTA Union County Founders Day dinner last night. This is an annual event that's held celebrating the rich history of PTA, and we had the pleasure of seeing 18 of our talented students having their dance, writing, and/or musical routines honored, and they are moving on to the state-level competition in the PTA Reflections program. So it was a wonderful night to be with the students and their families who joined us, with many of our PTA leaders as well. We will be recognizing those students on March 28th, so we look forward to having them here and celebrating with them as well.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. I also participated in Read Across America. Today at School 1, did 2 4th grade classes, and Mrs. Winkler was there, and Deb Brody was there.
I'll be reading at Coles tomorrow.
I'll be at Coles as well tomorrow. Yeah. I didn't see anybody else. Yeah, a lot of the mayor was there, a lot of heavy hitters there. Good. It was a great opportunity to be with the students.
And they're very cute.
Oh, yeah. Very attentive. They all sat there so quietly. Teachers said they never sit there that quietly.
Crisscross applesauce.
Crisscross applesauce.
Yes. It was cute.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, then I will have a motion to adjourn this meeting, but we are going back into executive session. No action will be taken. So can I have that? Mrs. Winkler, is this motion? Second was Tanya. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nobody's abstaining? Good night. Motion.